Yes, thank you, thank you. Good morning, Kahal Kadosh, Beruchim Abaim to everybody. Thursday, the 19th day of Tevet, the 16th day of January 2020, the Lighthouse live video feed Torah presentation dedicated לעילוי נשמת דבורה פייגה בת שמואל, אורה דבורה בת שמואל, אסתר רבקה בת אברהם, מוניקה מרים בת פניה, מנחם מנדל בן אלחנן. The iTorah.com of today for the רפואה שלמה of Miriam Inessa בת לאה, as well as for the שידוכים of נחמדינה בת חנבתיה, אליהו חיים בן אסתר, אליהו רפאל בן פרחה, רחל פנינה בת ג'ני, and Sarah Simcha בת Sophie. We welcome everyone that is here to spend the beautiful intercession winter break in sunny Florida. We hope that the Kahal will enjoy the stay and have a great time with us. We begin today an interesting discussion that the Zohar Kadosh brings down about Moshe Rabbeinu alav shalom. We know Moshe Rabbeinu is called in the Zohar Kadosh Ra'ya Mehemna. Ra'ya Mehemna literally means the faithful shepherd. He was the one who protected and vouched for Am Israel, even though during his 40 years of leadership, we had a couple of situations that created a bit of unpleasantness and even challenges for the Jewish people, and yet Moshe Rabbeinu, Baruch Hashem, came to the rescue. The pasuk begins in today's parasha about the birth of Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu was born from Yocheved and from Amram. And we all know what happened when Paro gives the decree against the Jewish people. Amram decided to divorce himself from his wife Yocheved. Miriam, the daughter of Yocheved and Amram, came and said to her father, "Your decrees are worse than Paro. Paro only made a decree against the maleborns, and you, by getting divorced, not only boys, but also not girls." Amram, you need to understand about him, he was definitely at that moment of history the head leader of Am Israel, the leadership of the Sanhedrin, or the Abedin, if we can call it in modern days, of the Jewish people. And his daughter, Miriam, was barely 5 years old. Now, many times when we say numbers of age, we think, how can a 5-year-old girl speak like that to her father? So definitely, the 5 years old of 330 years ago was much more mature than a 5-year-old of today. But what I'm trying to highlight is the reaction of Amram. Can you imagine a child tells you, don't eat this or don't do that? Most parents, when a child speaks to us, what's going to be our reaction? Probably not to answer and to ignore it. But in the case of Abraham of Mehillah, in the case of Amram, Amram accepted the... What's next? Salsa? Or mariachi? Beautiful. Simcha is good. Happiness is good. Don't take it bad. Yeah, mariachi is from Mexico. Yes, thank you. Or you want an oud, maybe. Anyways, thank you. The Zohar begins discussing the greatness of Moshe. Moshe Rabbeinu, after the incident of the Egyptian, which is mentioned in the beginning of the parasha, Moshe Rabbeinu regretfully needs to escape literally from Egypt. When Moshe Rabbeinu sees that there were two Jewish men arguing, the pasuk tells us that they were arguing, and Moshe Rabbeinu saw, let me just find the pasuk, Moshe Rabbeinu saw right here, Vayeseh bayom hasheni, the day after of the incident in which Moshe Rabbeinu removed of the Egyptian that was trying to kill another Jew, Behine shene anashim ibrim nisim, and they were two men fighting Datan and Abiram. Datan and Abiram, they were troublemakers. Their debut was in today's parasha. Later on, they will become infamous in Parashat Korah, that they gathered together with Korah to go against Moshe Rabbeinu in the middle of Sefer Bamidbar. The Pasuk tells us quickly why they were fighting. Short answer, they were fighting concerning their marriage. What happened? The day before, Moshe Rabbeinu sees, as the Pasuk says, Vayeseh Lehav Bayar Besivlotam. Moshe Rabbeinu goes out of his comfort zone. If you remember the beginning of the parasha, Moshe Rabbeinu is placed into the water. Batia, the daughter of Paro, rescues Moshe. She adopts Moshe Rabbeinu, and the first 40 years of Moshe's life, he lived in the palace of Paro. Obviously, Moshe Rabbeinu knows that he's a Yehudi, and the Pasuk says that Moshe Rabbeinu went out of the palace to his brothers, to his sisters, to his brethren, to see how can he help to make their suffering easier. The suffering that I'm referring to now is slavery. The Jewish people in this point of history, they were already 80 years of slavery, if not more. Bayar Ish Misri, the Pasuk says, Moshe Rabbeinu sees an Egyptian, Makeh Ish Ivri Me'ahav, that is hitting this Yehudi, but hitting him in a malicious way, hitting him like he's trying to get rid of him. Rashi asked, why? What prompted this Egyptian to attack this Jew? Why, was he the only slave? We're talking about most of the Jewish people, with the exception of the Leviim, were slaves. So Rashi explains, this man was married to Shelomit Bat Divri. Shelomit Bat Divri, as we mentioned a few days ago, that she was the exception in Egypt, that regretfully she was a woman, a lady that had a behavior that wasn't suitable for a Jewish lady to have. What was her behavior? The name says it all. Shelomit Bat Divri. Shelomit literally means ששואלת לשון שלום לכולם, דברי שמדברת עם כולם. Translation, she saw a man on the street and she will start talking to him. Now, relax. Okay? Relax. Doesn't mean that if a lady walks on the street, or I walk home and Shabbat Shalom, you answer Shabbat Shalom. But her method of conversation was much more than a Shabbat Shalom. She will make comments, she will engage in conversation, and regretfully, when she did this to this Egyptian supervisor, the Egyptian supervisor thought that she was making advances to him. If I'm able to say this in a public forum, I can say something else, but I think that this is kosher enough. So this Egyptian thought, she's inviting me home. And he went. And he did what he did. And then he realized what he did. She realized her mistake, that now suddenly she is together with a Gentile, with an Egyptian, and the Egyptian realized that this lady was married. So he's concerned what's going to be with the husband. This is not a Hollywood movie. This is real life. You need to understand that in Egypt, in Misraim, even in the time of Yosef Sadiq, eating bread with a Jew was an abomination. Do you understand what that means, the word abomination? Yani terrible is a mild word. Yani God forbid that you sit with a Jew to eat bread. This was in the time of Yosef. Is a pasuk in the Torah. To'evad Misraim. Misraim looked down at the Jewish people. So imagine yourself now that the rumors goes out, the Egyptian supervisor had an affair with a Jewish lady. National Enquirer. Can you relate to that? Relax. Don't buy it. Don't waste your time. Don't believe that they're right. But of course, but can you imagine in Egypt this happening 3,300 years ago? So what he decided to do? This Egyptian said, I'm going to get rid of the husband. So there's no a witness or any testimony on this. So Moshe Rabbeinu sees how this Egyptian is attempting to kill this Jew. So Moshe Rabbeinu comes to the rescue. The pasuk says, please let me do the talking. Ba'ifen ko bacho. Literally, Rashi gives different explanations what it means. Literally, people explain, Moshe Rabbeinu looked to the left, Moshe Rabbeinu looked to the right. Is anybody watching? But that's not what the pasuk says. Moshe Rabbeinu tu nevuah saw what happened earlier, how this goy went with a married Jewish lady. So therefore, that's already a strike against him. And now he sees that he is attempting to kill the Jew. Moshe Rabbeinu says, I need to save this Jew. I need to save these people. Bayachet HaMisri, Baitmenehu Bahol. Moshe Rabbeinu got rid of the Egyptian. But we need to clarify for the audience. And I know that so far I'm giving you basic pesukim. But in order for us to understand the Zohar of today, we need to understand the background of Moshe Rabbeinu alav shalom. Which this brings me to another statement. When Moshe Rabbeinu was born, Moshe was not the name given to him. Moshe was the name given to him by Batia, the daughter of Paro. As the pasuk says, Ki min hamayim meshitihu. I draw him out of the water. But Moshe Rabbeinu, it says in the Midrash, that had 10 names. And none of them was Moshe. Some of the names of Moshe: Ahituv, Katriel, Tuvia, Avigdor, Yekutiel, Haber. No, Haber was Yitro. So at least I gave you 5 or 6 names of Moshe Rabbeinu. And every name had a different concept, a different meaning. But the Torah says no. Batia, the daughter of the king, she saves the Jewish boy. We're going to honor her by calling Moshe the name given to him by her. So how did Moshe Rabbeinu kill the Jew? This Mehillah killed the Egyptian. Shem HaMeforash. Moshe Rabbeinu orders Hashem's name. The earth opens up and the goy is MIA. And that's what the pasuk says. Baitmenehu Bahol. He was literally hidden inside of the sand. For this reason, later on, next week's Torah portion, when the Torah talks about the plagues of Egypt, the first 3 plagues were not done by Moshe, were done by Aharon. Why not? Moshe Rabbeinu says, I need to have Hakarat Tov. I need to be thankful to the water, that my life was saved in the water, and I need to be thankful to the earth that took care of the Egyptians in this week's Torah portion. Continues the pasuk, Vayeseh bayom hasheni, the next day, Behine shene anashim ivrim nisim. There are 2 Jewish men fighting, arguing, Datan and Abiram. If I remember correctly, Datan and Abiram were brother-in-laws. And one of them was married to Shelomit bat Dibri. So now they were arguing about a halachic topic. Was the husband allowed to go back to his wife, or the fact that she was married to him and she went with a goy, automatically they must get divorced? This was the argument between them. By the way, this is part of Jewish law. if God forbid a married lady goes with a man, doesn't matter who the man is, that continuation of the marriage with the original husband becomes questionable. And I'm tempting to say that regretfully are grounds for divorce. So this was the argument between them, especially that she went with a goy. So the brother of the lady says it was an accident. She thought that it was you, that she came home early. That's why she was waiting for you there. The husband said, maybe she wants to have an adventure. This was the arguments that they were having. But the argument doesn't seem to be the main reason of Moshe Rabbeinu's intervention. The reason of Moshe Rabbeinu's intervention was the way they were arguing. You can have a disagreement with another person. We agree to disagree. As long that we don't raise our voices and as long that we don't raise our hands, we are able to disagree. But if God forbid the disagreement involves the hands or involves physical actions, then you lost it. And the Pasuk says, Vayomer LaRasha, Moshe said to the wicked person. Now, who is the wicked from both of them? We don't know. The Pasuk calls them Rasha, which is not a nice word to say. Rasha means evil one, big wicked one. Lama take et re'echa. The Gemara Sanhedrin says he called them a wicked man because he was about to hit his friend. The Pasuk, the Gemara in Sanhedrin didn't say Lama hikita. Why did you hit him? The Pasuk says Lama take. So what do you learn from this Pasuk? That lifting a hand against a Jew is forbidden. And we know this. We don't need to share this with you. Everybody understands that lifting a hand is forbidden and is a recipe for disaster. But the source of that lesson is actually from this week's Torah portion. Now, continues the next pasuk. Vayomer, and he said, who? Actually, the Midrash Rabbah said both of them. So why the pasuk says Vayomer? The pasuk should have said Vayomeru. It says because they were partners in crime. Zo nevela, zo terefa. They both troublemakers. The lady was out. The lady was at home embarrassed. And regretfully, I'm sure you know this, but it's important to know, from this relationship, forbidden relationship that she had with the Egyptian man that she thought was her husband, she had a child. And this child was the one that when later on the Torah talks about the division of the land of the tribes, he wanted a share and he did not receive anything because the share of the land is based on the father's lineage and the Jewishness of a person is determined by the mother's lineage. So because his father was a Gentile, he was not entitled to anything. He wasn't happy with that ruling. He started to curse Moshe. He cursed the Torah. He cursed God. Eventually, he was executed. This was one of the sour grapes of the Jewish history during the 40 years of the desert. The name of the boy, the Pasuk doesn't call him. The Pasuk calls them from the tribe of Dan, Megadef. Megadef means the blasphemer. This is how the Torah labels him. The Torah hid his identity. No need, no difference. It's irrelevant for us because he was not good. He was not a good example. Now, Vayomer. So the Pasuk says, Misa mechale ish sar beshofet alenu. Who appointed you to be the minister and the judge? You're a young man. Halorgeni ata omer, are you threatening me? Are you threatening me to kill me? Kasher harakta et hamisri, like you slaughter, like you killed the Egyptian yesterday? Ba'ira Moshe, Moshe Rabbeinu became frightened. Bayomar, Achen Noda Haddabar. If these troublemakers are already threatening me with what I did yesterday, what did Moshe Rabbeinu did yesterday? He saved the life of one of these troublemakers, because one of them was being abused and victimized by the Egyptian supervisor. The guy is taking the whip, he's taking the belt, he's taking a baseball bat, and he's hitting him. Are you going to allow it? What do you see? There is a Torah prohibition that says, Lo ta'amod al dam re'echa. You're not allowed to see someone drowning and you said, I don't want to get wet. You must jump into the water. It doesn't matter on the gender. Male, female. Today you have a third choice, undecided. But that's a different topic. Okay? That's what Sefer Hasirim. Doesn't matter. You see someone in danger, you're supposed to jump and save them. Don't be a Hasid Shoteh, as Hacham tells us today. Don't be a pious fool. You say, I'm Shomer Negiah. I can't touch her. I'm a man. That's Asur. Sure, there is a time that you need to be normal, and there is a time that you need to be a hero. So when Moshe Rabbeinu sees how much a punishment this Yehudi is receiving, Moshe Rabbeinu says, how can I stay watching? I can't stand idle by my brother's blood. That's the meaning of this verse. And that's what Moshe Rabbeinu sprung into action and saved the Jew. And this is how they pay back Moshe. By Paro. Paro now became aware of this. How? Twitter. That's what they did. Rashid doesn't say Twitter. I said Twitter. Hilshinu alav. What's the meaning of Hilshinu? They told Paro, by the way, I want you to know that you may have heard that there was an incident between my friend and the Egyptian, but I didn't kill the Egyptian. Moshe killed the Egyptian. Yani you're trying to cover yourself by pointing the finger to someone else. So what did they do now? Lashon hara. Bayomer Moshe, Bayivrach Moshe mipene Paro. Moshe Rabbeinu says, forget about it. Paro did attempt to kill Moshe. And Rashi says it. Belo shalta bo acherev. When the sword was about to execute Moshe, the sword, the neck of Moshe became hard as a rock, and he was not able to be killed. And that's why when Moshe Rabbeinu becomes a father of his first son, Eliezer, he says, Ki Elokei avi ve'ezri bayasileni mecheref Paro. He gives gratitude. God came to my rescue, that he saved me from the sword of Paro. The sword of Paro was in this pasuk. By Bakesh laharog et Moshe. Paro said, you got rid of one of mine, I'll get rid of you. Baruch Hashem, Moshe Rabbeinu was able to escape. By Yeshev be'eres Midian, he went to the city of Midian, and by Yeshev al ha'be'er, Moshe Rabbeinu waited patiently, and then eventually we all know the happy ending, that Moshe marries Tzipora, the daughter of Yitro, and then we know what happens with the life of Moshe Rabbeinu. Now, our holy rabbis tell us that Moshe Rabbeinu alav shalom, and I like to say this quickly from the Zohar. I know I gave you a lengthy introduction, but only understanding who Moshe Rabbeinu was and what Moshe Rabbeinu did, we are able to understand exactly the leadership obligation that Moshe Rabbeinu wanted to fulfill to the best. Moshe hayaroe et sonitro hoteno kohen Midian. Moshe Rabbeinu was tending to the animals of Yitro. The Pasuk writes, chapter 23 of Tehillim, Mizmor le David, Hashem ro'i lo ihsar. God is my shepherd. Ma ro'eh manhig et hason, like the shepherd leads the sheep and brings them to green pastures, to nice places, places that the animals can be fed and can drink water. Also the Almighty protects and guides the Jewish people. Li'archikam min hagezel. One of the things that Moshe Rabbeinu, Abraham, Yaakov Avinu were very careful with is that whenever they took their animals in the fields, they will not allow the animals to eat from lands that they did not belong to them or they had a private ownership. Why not? Because Gezel, because of stealing. And that was the famous argument that happened, if you remember, back in Bereshit, correct? The argument between the shepherds of Lot and the shepherds of Abraham. And once you know Abraham and once you know Lot, then you are able to understand the behavior of the shepherds. What does it mean? The Torah tells us back then there was an argument between the shepherds. What was the arguments? So Rashi explains, the shepherds of Abraham were trained by Abraham not to eat from private domain or private lands. Eat only from the open fields, open spaces. The shepherds of Lot didn't care. Wherever the animal went, they allowed them to eat. One day, the shepherds of Abraham contact and speak to the shepherds of Lot. And they ask him, why are you allowing the animals of Lot to eat from a land that doesn't belong to him? He says, who said doesn't belong to him? God promised Abraham that the land will go to him. Since Abraham has no children, the next of kin is Lot. So why do I need to wait till Abraham dies to collect the inheritance? I want to start collecting from today. Can you imagine you go visit somebody in the hospital and you speak to the fellow son? I said, listen, when your father, if your father leaves the world any day, let me know so I can make an offer on his house. I know it sounds crazy, right? Guess what? That's exactly what happened in the argument between the shepherds of Lot and the shepherds of Abraham. They said, why do I need to wait till he's gone? I want to collect now. He has no children. With that being said, let's come back to Moshe Rabbeinu. The Zohar Kadosh says that we need to learn. First of all, perhaps I give an introductory statement. Although I'm giving you an introduction for the past 28 minutes, but now it's going to be a statement. And we need to understand that whenever the Torah tells us historical facts or events, it means that there is lessons for us to learn. And things which are not relevant, the Torah omits them. And one of them is about the shepherd's story. The shepherds, how our forefathers were careful in the topic of kosher money, kosher sources of income. And that's why, according to Jewish law, a professional gambler is not a kosher witness. Why is he disqualified as a kosher witness? Because he makes money by other people's losing money. And he's not doing things which are good for the upkeep of the world. And we know that in the world of addictions today, there are different levels of addictions. Sometimes addictions is to gambling, God forbid, or drinking, drugs, all kinds of things that regretfully today, by the way, today they open up a rehab center for internet addiction. There are rehab centers today for internet addiction. That's why they call them compulsive shopper. Okay, compulsive, being compulsive, I'm not saying it's an addiction, but it's also not a good thing to have. So today there are internet rehab facilities with kosher food. Huh? Right? Continues the Zohar Kadosh, and it says, a person must also learn how to conduct themselves with honesty in their business, in their affairs, in their matters. And the Pasuk continues and it says that being a shepherd, to many of us, may sound like a very simple job. But if you think for a moment, how many of our tzaddikim were shepherds? Among them, David HaMelech, King David, when he was a child, till the age of 28 or even 29, shepherd. Moshe Rabbeinu, shepherd. Yaakov Avinu, shepherd. Even Abraham was a shepherd or involved in the sheep's industry. The question is, what's so special about being a shepherd? So ro'eh has a lot of meanings in Hebrew. Ro'eh in Hebrew also means a friend. Re'acha, ve'ahavta le're'acha. Right. So ro'eh is a position or a job that seems to be very relaxed. The sheep don't talk to you. You just walk around. You guide them. You walk around with the staff. You take care of them. You bring them back. Which I'm sure you know what's coming soon. That when God saw Moshe Rabbeinu's devotion and caring about the animals, God said, I want you in my team. So in one of these days that Moshe Rabbeinu went out to take care of the sheep of Yitro, remember the famous story, what happened? That a sheep ran away and he went to a certain area and the sheep wanted to drink water. Moshe Rabbeinu realized that the sheep was very thirsty. Now the sheep drinks water and now they starting to head back where the rest of the flock is. So Moshe Rabbeinu says, hold on a minute. If we came such a far away distance and the animal just finished drinking water and we're going to run back where the rest of the sheep are, she's going to be thirsty again. What did Moshe Rabbeinu do? Took the sheep and carried on his shoulders, on his hands. God says, if you have so much caring in your heart, I want you to take care of my sheep. Who are the sheep of Hashem? Am Israel. This was the zechut of Moshe Rabbeinu to become and to be the leader of Am Israel. Another message of the Zohar. What is the purpose of the shepherd? Not only take care of the sheep, but actually to protect the sheep. To protect them from what? The Zohar says, Ze'evim and Arayot, wolves and lions. I think in English they call them predators. Predators? That's the right word? Thank you. It paid to go to school, right? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So God says, I need someone to protect the Jewish people from the predators of the world. There are predators in the world. And I'm not talking about, God forbid, in the world of crime, in the world of police involvement, in the world of Haz v'Shalom, physical aggression or abuse. But sometimes the challenges of the Jewish people don't come in a physical way. They come in an intellectual way. They come in assimilation way. Nothing related to a physical attack like anti-Semitism or, God forbid, terrorism. And we're not minimizing for one instant these two tragedies that regretfully they seem to be alive and well in our days. We thought that after the Holocaust we had a couple of hiccups. Regretfully, these hiccups are becoming a chronic condition for the Jewish people. And we need to pray and beseech Hashem's protection and supervision that situations of that nature never again happen. But regretfully, if you follow closely Jewish news sources, there are issues and there are incidents almost daily, all over, all over. Now, the Zohar says, Moshe Rabbeinu now wants, Hashem rather, Moshe Rabbeinu, the Zohar says, that God sends in Moshe that he was able to take care of the sheep. But the Zohar adds one more. לזכרים כפי הראוי, והנקבות כפי הראוי. Translation. Among the animals that Moshe Rabbeinu was leading were some female animals and there were male animals. And we know this very well, that a male animal and a female animal, and I'm going to say something, and I hope does not sound offensive, is not different than a male or a female human, correct? Men are a certain personality, ladies are different personalities. Humans and animals are almost the same, with a few exceptions. Humans have the power to speak. Humans have the freedom to make decisions. And humans are blessed with a brain, intellect, emotions. Animals don't have the power of speech. Even when an animal makes sounds, that's not called speaking. Not to us, like us. Animals don't have a freedom of choice. Or today I'm going to wake up, today I'm going to shul, today I'm staying in bed. So I hope that nobody is offended by the many similarities that humans and animals have. They eat, we eat. They drink, we drink. They bathe, we bathe. They sleep, we sleep. They procreate, we procreate. They have bodily functions, we have bodily functions. Today you have pet insurance even. Pet insurance. You call the vet, they ask you, you have insurance card? It's not different. Correct? And there are medicines and therapy, and there is a dog spas, right? All these things that we have in the animal kingdom exist also. But the Zohar says that there is a sensitivity required when you interact with the opposite gender. And although this is not the main goal of the Zohar, but the Zohar finishes up one of the greatness of Moshe Rabbeinu is that he was able to talk to men in a way that they will understand, and he was able to talk to ladies in a way that they will understand. And I'm not Moshe Rabbeinu, I'm a mini Moshe Rabbeinu. Yes, you are right. He is right. He's quoting the Zohar that says that every rabbi must have a spark of Moshe Rabbeinu. I'm not denying what he's saying. And believe me, it's not easy. It's not easy. I'm trying to settle a real estate dispute, and part of my heart wants to be Mr. Nice Guy, like I always try to be. But part of my heart says, you need to switch your tone a bit. Now, Moshe Rabbeinu, when it came to giving the Torah, what the Pasuk says, Ko tomar levet Yaakov betaget libnei Israel. The Torah uses two different terminologies. When it comes to teach Torah to ladies, one way. When it comes to teach Torah to men, a different way. Marriage is not different. Marriage is not different. How many times your wife tells you, you ignore me, you don't pay attention to me, you don't understand me? Men are intellectual, ladies are emotional. I'm not saying ladies don't have intellect, and I apologize if any of the female audience misunderstood what I just said. But there are different methods that a man deals with situations and a mother or a wife leads with situation. Let's say your wife tells you, Moshe, can you take care of dinner tonight for the kids? Sure. What Moshe does, calls the pizza store, can you deliver a pie of pizza, 3 French fries, one of them well done, and a salad, or ice cream, no salad, Hazve Shalom. The wife comes home, and she says, what did you do? You told me to feed the children. What's wrong with pizza and French fries and ketchup and burekas? Says, what happened to the food pyramid? That's how ladies think, right? The greens, right? The starch, the protein, the vegetables. Ladies, don't take it as a complaint. I think that I'm looking around the audience, we all agree that ladies see things in a much deeper or different way than the men. And obviously, we all pray to always have Shalom Bayit. But the Zohar Kadosh writes and it says that Moshe Rabbeinu had this gift to be able to relate to everyone. God says, I want a guy like you in my dream team of leadership. And we saw the dream team. Moshe, Aharon, and Miriam. Aharon was an expert negotiator. Aharon, anytime somebody planned to get divorced, he was there to help. Anytime he heard there was a dispute between friends, he settled, he made peace among them. Ohev Shalom, Berodev Shalom. These were, Umkarevan la Torah. These were the qualifications and the qualities that they all had. Guess what? That qualification that they had is not patented. Every one of us needs to imitate their way. Abraham Avinu through kindness, benevolence, compassion. Ishaq Avinu through discipline, self-control, prayer. Yaakov with honesty, truthfulness, and Torah learning. So the fact that we speak about the Tzaddikim is not only just to speak about them and that's it. The mission of the message of the Torah is, I want you to be like him. In what sense? Obviously, Moshe Rabbeinu was one. Aharon HaKohen was one. Abraham Avinu was one. But Sefer Tomer Devorah writes in the first opening statement that a person must know that part of our goal in life is self-improvement. Ha'adam sarich lehidamot lekono. This is the opening statement of Tomer Devorah. Now when I know, listen, I'm going to be like Moshe Rabbeinu. Now when you talk to your wife, you're going to talk nicer. When you see two people arguing, you're going to try to make shalom. When you hear that people are planning to get divorced, you say, maybe I can help. Maybe I can talk to him. Maybe I can talk to her. And guess what? The foundation of being able to do this starts with ourselves. In what sense? Believing in ourselves. If you say, I'm not good enough, who am I to try to make peace between people? You are a human being that is alive and well, and you have a heart. There are people that don't have a heart. There are people, they see, I don't get involved, doesn't have to do with me, I move on. If you feel in your heart something, that means that you have the potential of doing something about it. And even if we're not are perfect. Remember the other day when we were watching with many people here in our shul, January 1st, the live transmission from the MetLife Stadium, that 93,000 men, women, and children in 30 degrees Fahrenheit were hours sitting and celebrating the famous Siyum Hashas. One of the speakers was Rabbi Friend from Baltimore. You heard of him, right? Beautiful, wonderful rabbi, wonderful, excellent speaker, by the way. And he says, perfection is the enemy of goodness, or good. I believe that's what he says. Perfection is the enemy of good. What does it mean? Sometimes you want to do something, but there is an inner voice that says, it's not going to be perfect. He tried to say this, that many people, they ask themselves, why should I start learning Daf Yomi? I know that later on, midway, I'm going to throw in the towel. So it says, with that kind of reasoning, close the books and cancel the class. So he meant to say, even if you're going to skip or miss a few days, don't cancel it. The fact that you have a daily routine of Torah learning, that connects you with God. That connects you with the Torah, and that connects you with the entire Jewish nation. You know, yesterday in South Africa, in Johannesburg, they also made a celebration of Siyum Hashas, that 60 people learned the Shas and they memorized it. And they were tested. Some of them, yes, Rashi and Tosafot. Yes, and some of them had a keen knowledge of any topic, any page, by heart. Yes. In Israel, they had the other day another celebration that there are 150 young rabbinical students that were sitting in a panel being tested by 10 rabbis orally. One rabbi said, למשל, ממתי קוראים את שמע בערבית? ברכות ב'. So they needed to quote the pages of the Talmud where such a sentence is found. It's all live.
Genius.
Unbelievable.
That's genius.
Of course. But you know what? Many people are genius and they don't use their brain and they don't use the talent. They don't believe in themselves. And that's part what we need to do. A person needs to believe that we have kohot from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We have the power. And the Pasuk says in the beginning of today's Zohar, Hashem ro'i lo ihsar. God is my shepherd. God, the Lord is my shepherd. You remember that? Thank you so much. Chapter 23 of Tehillim, right? 23. And what do they say? Gam ki elech veges al mavet. Lo irara ki ata imadi. Even when I'm walking in the shadow of death, yani, even when I'm surrounded by challenges, situations, lo irara, I'm protected. Ki ata imadi. Because you are with me. Hashem always surrounds and helps and is around the person. The Musar of today from Sefer Haredim continues discussing the concepts of materialism. Materialism is not limited to money. Money is part of materialism, but the way people live, it says that regretfully, the more materialistic the person becomes and the more obsession they have and the more desire they have, that cuts more and more and more the spiritual connection with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I think that we all can relate to that. There is a time to pray, there is a time to work, there is a time to live, there is a time to learn Torah, there is a time to have fun, and there is a time to do nothing. But if a person main goal in life puts only materialism and he also wants to keep up with others, this not only creates an unbelievable stress in the person's life, but also creates an envy and a competition that most of the time is not healthy. For example, we say in the Shabbat morning in the Mishaberach, Kin'a b'yasir mitochechem, kin'a b'sin'a b'tahrut. And we move from among us jealousy, envy, and competition. Competition. Why? If the competition is how early you came to shul today, beautiful. If the competition is, okay, I learned today an hour, and you say, you know what? I learned today an hour and a half. It's actually a pasuk. Kin'at sofrim tarveh chokhmah. But if the envy and the jealousy is all related to materialistic items, oh, you bought this car, I need to have it. You bought this apartment, I need to have it. You went vacation here, I need to go. So you're trying to keep up with someone, and guess what? That creates a lot of hardship in the person's life at all level. Why? Because the world, it's like a rocky ocean. You know, the waves of the water. You know, you bought an apartment, or you bought a phone, or you bought a computer, and now 2 months later, this is obsolete. Now you need to get the new one. So you're trying to keep up with everything new that's going out there, and what happens? You make yourself a bigger hole. But the most biggest, I say, dangerous concept in this topic is our children trying to imitate the parents. Or the children don't know other way, and nothing is good enough for them. We have seen it in real life. We have seen it in real life. I said this a while back concerning the topic of education. You cannot say to your child yes all the time. You cannot say no all the time. But you need to be smart enough when to say yes and when to say no. And that's part of love, but that's also part of education. Because if yes is the only thing that they know, when real life matters comes and you have to say no, guess what? They will not be able to function, to handle the no. Now, the Musar of today talks about that, God forbid, a person who has this condition of desiring what others have. By the way, this is the 10th commandment in the Torah, Lo Tahmod. The 10th commandment. Why is it why the Torah put that as the 10th commandment? Short answer rather, because that can determine the rest of the commandments. Meaning to say, if you desire what somebody else has, guess what? And for some reason, maybe that fellow, that person that has it, Baruch Hashem, has the means, has the parnasah, has the income. And for him, it's not a big deal. But some people that don't have it, but they have this inner desire, I need to have it, and desperation, guess what? They are willing to break the law. They are willing to steal. They are willing to hurt people. Why? Because they have a desire that they need to fulfill. I don't want to say the word addiction. It's not an addiction, but it's the cousin of addiction. If you follow me, they hurt themselves, they hurt the family, and they hurt people. 100%. Jealousy, God forbid. Jealousy, envy, hatred, competition. All of the words are all messaging, give us the same message. But who you should imitate? Who you should imitate? Obviously, Hashem. How? He begins with an interesting concept. The Pasuk says in Sefer Devarim, one statement that is a debate in Halacha, if this is considered a mitzvah from the Torah or a way of life. For example, the Pasuk writes, Vehalachta bidrachav, walk in the footsteps of God. So one opinion says mitzvah. Other opinion says no mitzvah. That's part of your DNA. Part of your DNA is to become the best that we can. As the Pasuk says, Oseh Shalom Bimbromav. The famous verse that we say every day at the end of the Hilim. The Pasuk says, why didn't the Pasuk says Asa? He made. It says the Zohar Kadosh, and quoting Sefer Haredim, or Mehillah, the Sefer Haredim quotes the Zohar Kadosh, that Oseh, God constantly makes peace in the world and makes peace in the heaven, especially when judgment is about to become activated. Another message that the Musar of today says, be careful with your tongue. Your tongue, Nesor leshonecha mera, usfatecha midaber mirma. It's a pasuk from Tehillim that is part of our daily prayers. Your tongue can become your worst nightmare, your worst enemy. The sword is comparable to the tongue. Like the sword kills, the tongue also. And that's why it says that one of the wars that a person must engage on a regular day is with the tongue. What I'm going to say, and how I'm going to say it, if I'm going to say it, or better, don't say it. Look how many options I gave you in 3 seconds. That's why it's a challenge. That's why a person needs to learn how to exercise self-control. It's not easy. It doesn't come automatically. Don't expect that now I'm going to close the book and now suddenly you press the button in your left cheek and the tongue goes into Miami style, relax, come back, etc. No, the tongue is functional, non-stop, non-stop, non-stop. But this is where we come into the picture, telling the tongue, wait. Don't answer. Think. Choose your words. Like you write an email. You write a text message. You write a WhatsApp. What do? You usually read it before you send it. Hopefully. Sometimes you dictate it, right? Sometimes you dictate it or write it, and the system picks up a word, puts it in, and then you forgot to read it again, and then you say, Uli. It happened to me the other day. Somebody sent me an email, not an email, a WhatsApp, and I said, okay, nice. And then the person apologized. The person apologized because there was one word in the middle of this text message that bichlal didn't make any sense. It's like, but in Spanish, some things have many different meanings. So imagine yourself, you send an email to a company, to a client, to an employer, and you wrote something inappropriate. How are you going to feel? The same thing is in here. At least when you write, when you text, you have the opportunity of seeing it, reading it, and rewriting it. How many times we rewrite things? But once the words come out of the mouth, Khalas, now we became the slave of the words. As the Gemara says, as long as the words were inside of me, I was in control. I was the master of my silence. Now that the words came out, I'm the slave of my word. I got to deal with it. And that's why a teacher used to tell us when we were kids, think before you speak. Piensa antes de hablar. And believe me, the more we try to do it, the easier it becomes. It will become second nature. Again, it doesn't happen overnight, but it's an attainable goal. And it's a goal that if you have a compulsive or challenging personality, may take longer than to a person that by nature is easygoing and a pleasant person. But the beautiful conclusion of this statement is that it's never too late. It's never too late. But the person must take the initial step. We must take the initial step of making the effort, and that is part of our mission. Ve'alachta bidrachav. Walk in the footsteps of Hashem. Rabbeinu Moshe Cordovero. Ha'adam sarich lehiddamot lekono. Your mission in this world, our mission is act in a godly way. And there is no something more godly than the power of speech. It's a catch-22. You can build with your speech, or you can destroy with your speech. And if you remember yesterday's class, when I mentioned that how the speech of the person is, godliness is close to the person, or God says, I can be next to you. It's a pasuk in the Torah. Belo yera'e becha irvat davar beshav me'acharecha. May the Almighty not see the nakedness of your speech, because He will stay behind you. So you want to walk with God? Start with the tongue. Not only kosher food, because everybody is careful in kosher food. The problem is what goes out. Okay, my good friends? Thank you so much. Have a lovely day. Baruch Adonai le'olam. Amen ve'amen. Rabbi Hananiah ben Akashia omer, רצה הקדוש ברוך הוא לזכות את ישראל לפיכך. הרבה להן תורה מצוות שנאמר, אדוני חפש למען צדקו, יגדיל תורה וידיר קדיש. אמן. אמן. יש מרבה מברך לעלם לא מעלמי יתברך. אמן. אמן. דעסקים באורייתא כתשתה. יהי לנו אמן. חיים בסבא ברבע והצלם. אמן. אמן.